Beautiful, beautiful. But today, guys, welcome to another edition of Boundaries and Brotherhood with your host, Gordon Watt. I'm the Robin, Doc's the Batman, right, from Freedom Success Exchange. And today's topic is going to be a really, really deep one. In fact, we were just having a talk about it today. Right? Do you feel hesitant to forgive because it feels like condoning bad behavior? In today's episode, you're going to learn why forgiveness is the gift you give yourself and not an absolution for others, right? Forgiving isn't about letting others off the hook. It's about setting yourself free and understand why forgiveness is the most powerful, selfish act to becoming the 11th man. What we push at boundaries, brother, right? Understand this one thing, guys. It's not selfish. Like Doc said, it's self-care. Doc, when we get it all set up, explain to them, the viewers, what we be going through on this episode, because this is going to be a pretty good one while I get us all technically set up.
Gotcha. Well, first and foremost, greetings, everybody. Dr. Keith Fairclough here. Second thing is, I think Gordon's more like a Nightwing than a Robin. He's more Nightwing. I might be Batman. He might be Nightwing, I would say.
Nightwing?
A hero in his own right, but still partnering with Batman. Not like a sidekick. Yeah, we're partners in this. So in any case, I digress. Yeah, the prison of unforgiveness. We're going to be talking about what unforgiveness is, how it traps us, the damage it can do to us in our lives. And then Gordon, like Gordon was saying, we talked about a couple of different things when it came to it, right? Self-forgiveness and forgiving others. So we'll get into that. And ultimately, what forgiveness is and what it can do for you and how it can literally free you and really allow you to embrace the 11th man concept in your own life. So we're going to be going over that today.
Please, because a lot of the times forgiveness can go both ways. The end goal is you want to be liberated from all this junk going on in your head, your nervous system, the mentality, the behaviors. And it's all going to start with a lot of things when you start prioritizing your mental peace and your well-being above everybody else, and vice versa for some other people. You learn how to sever emotional pains, right? Preventing them from even draining the present situation that you could be in right now. And reclaim your narrative and focus on your growth, not everybody else's crap. You got to be right first before you can do that. Yeah. Doc, what's the first thing you have that kind of resonated with you about this topic?
So I would say the thing that resonated with me the most, I have my own personal stories, but just how unforgiveness, we think it protects us, but it actually traps us. It hurts us. It's a prison of our own making. That's the crazy part, right? And we think that if we hold on to the unforgiveness and the offense, that we're actually protecting ourselves. If we're viewing that person as the enemy and relive that story and you play it over and over again, building up all these unpleasant emotions within us that are causing us to go into a fight or flight, we think we're keeping ourselves safe. But the reality of the situation is we're actually not just locking ourselves in a prison, but we're actually torturing ourselves as well. And so holding on to unforgiveness does us absolutely zero good. It only serves to hurt us and keep us from truly being the men that we know we can be.
Understand that, because forgiveness is a big thing, especially when you're looking at certain other things. Like for myself, moving forward, I had to learn how to forgive myself. And forgiving myself doesn't always come easy at times, because a lot of the times forgiving yourself for the things you've done, you start blaming yourself. But getting over these things and helping other people do it can make a difference when you're helping other people, especially in the situation that they could be in. A lot of the times, the emotion that comes with trying to redeem yourself makes it even harder sometimes, because even I took a path, a promise to God. When I came out, I said, I'll never do the same things back, no matter how bad it gets, whatever it is. Because for the remaining part of my life, I always wanted to redeem myself to my kids, my family, to show that. And it was always an uphill battle.
Yeah.
But if you cannot forgive yourself for the things you've done, you won't be able to move forward either.
It's true.
Same with other people. When you start forgiving people, because I was going to put a big tattoo on my chest at one point. Well, I was going to put this revenge. At one point in my life, I wanted to take revenge on everybody for what they did to me. And as the years of my incarceration, I learned to just forgive, but not forget that. But my self-accountability, when in my situation where I forgave myself and I'll never say I'll put myself back in the same situation, I don't have to put that tattoo on my, because I wanted to put up just revenge, like hating life, screw everybody, all that good stuff. But that comes part of it because mentally it's hard to do. It really is hard.
Yeah. Well, because unforgiveness serves as a protective factor. It's
Correct.
it's a pin in your brain that say, "Hey, this thing happened. Now you got to make sure you watch out for it ever happening again." Sometimes we isolate it and localize it to just a person, just a relationship, but maybe it's your wife, or maybe it's a friend, or maybe it's a parent, whatever. Or sometimes we generalize it. Like it's these kinds of people, or those people in that neighborhood, or like we will do that. And
Mhm.
so, but unfortunately, again, the way the brain works, in order for us to really lock that in to keep us safe, we start rehearsing it over and over again. We start looking for every little piece of information we can find, and we cherry pick it just so we can reinforce this level, this unforgiveness, this offense in our mind over and over again. And mind you, this is not saying that you have the full story, right?
True.
It's not
100%
saying you
true.
have the full story. A lot of times we don't have the full story, and yet we still create the offense. Like they can't believe they did this to me. They treated me this way. So yeah, I know it can be very damaging. And again, I love Gordon how you said it's not just with other people as well, but with ourselves. And it can be hard to break because again, if you don't have the skills on how to forgive and how to move forward and how to set boundaries, because that's critical. Because a lot of times you tell people to forgive, but if you don't have the skills to protect yourself, all that's going to
Yep.
happen is it's going to happen again. And so that's a big block as to why people have a hard time forgiving, because it's like, if I forgive, it's going to happen again. And some of these hurts are legitimate, right? So we're not just talking about, oh, you cut me in line or you didn't hold the door for me, or things like that. We're talking about some like serious, like some abuse, so physical or mental or sexual things like that. We're talking about severe neglect, abandonment. Like we're talking about
You.
things like that, right? So we're not talking about like small things, but however, the mechanism remains the same, right? The offense, the hurt, that stuff happened. That person could be long gone and sometimes even dead, but we're still holding on to rehearsing the story. And it's the way I look at it, it's like holding on to unforgiveness is like drinking poison, hoping your enemy is going to be the one that suffers from it. And it never happens like that.
Oh, that's a deep
Yeah.
one.
You know,
That's a
so
really, really deep one. Holding on to that hatred, not forgiving yourself, not understanding that to move forward, that's gonna be like you're drowning and you're tethered to the rock down to the ocean,
yes,
basically. You could be swimming with that rock and you don't know how to forgive yourself, forgive others to move forward.
yes,
And every time that chain goes down into the ocean and it drops, you're anchoring yourself for just nothing. And
right.
it took me years to figure this out.
Yeah.
Like it took me the forgiveness part. Do you think it stems from what you've been taught about forgiving, or is it something that you have to do to like sever the emotional pains that you've been through and the trauma?
Well, it's to protect you, right? Maybe you don't have secure parents. Offenses happen. They don't apologize for it, or people hurt you. They don't recognize your worth or your value as a human being. And so eventually what you learn is to keep myself safe. I keep opening myself up to these people, to my parents, to my siblings, to my friends, and I keep on getting hurt. I keep on getting beaten over the head. And so what I now need to do in order to keep myself safe is keep a running tally of all those who hurt me so I can keep myself safe. So it forms when we're very young. It forms when we're very, very
Mm,
young. And we hold
yeah,
on to it because it's a
yeah.
survival mechanism. There's a reason behind it. It's a survival mechanism. It's like touching the stove. You get burnt. Well, now I know not to touch the stove anymore because I don't want to get hurt. And so, unfortunately, though, it's like I'm not just not going to touch the stove. I'm never going to use it again. I'm going to run away from the stove. But you need the stove in order to cook. But it's like, no, 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 no. You don't understand what that stove did to me. That stove burnt
Right.
me.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, but there's a way to use a stove so you never get burnt. You can still engage and not get burnt. You can still engage in relationships and not get hurt. And the secret to that's boundaries. And we can get to that at the end. I don't want to jump ahead, but long story short, that's what ends up happening, right? We learn these behaviors when we're younger that the world's not safe, people aren't safe, And sometimes for ourselves, even we're not safe. We can't trust our own thoughts or our own
True.
behavior. We've done things that we're not proud of, and we hold on to all this guilt like, who am I? I can't believe this. I'm just a horrible person. I can't come back. And that shame, not guilt, but shame, because guilt says I made a mistake. Shame says I am a mistake. And so we hold on to that
Oh,
shame, and then we don't forgive ourselves. And so sometimes what we'll do, we'll forgive others because we think others are better than us. So who am I to hold a grudge because I'm so horrible? I'm a terrible human being. We'll even allow for bad behavior. We'll enable bad behavior because it's like, well, I'm so horrible. I don't deserve good treatment. I don't deserve love. I don't deserve forgiveness. I'm just so horrible because of what I've done. And so, tying to what you were saying, that self forgiveness, it can be very, if you don't do it, it can be extremely detrimental to not only yourself, but also to your other relationships because you could allow yourself to be treated horribly because of how you view yourself.
I mean, it comes twofold. Even like for me and my relationship with my kids, my wife, and everything now. If I didn't forgive myself for the things I've done in the past, and I've done a lot of crap that I'm not even supposed to still be out to this day
Hmm.
right now. I truly believe that. But I
Hmm.
have to put that on the side because they don't deserve that person without the healing, right?
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like Doc said, it's easier for people to forgive other people because you think I'll be in their good graces. Or
Yeah.
you might say something like, I'll forgive you, but I won't forget. But what about the stuff that
Mm.
you done? What
Ooh.
about the stuff that you have to fix yourself so that the people that you come in contact with next and like say 2.0 of yourself deserves, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody goes to that, especially men. You mean with the men because a lot of times men do not think you think forgive. Oh, I'm gonna be a tough guy. I'm gonna beat his head in. Yeah, what happens when something happens and you take a life? Now what happens?
Ooh.
And it happens all the time. Look what just
Yeah.
happened on the road rage the other day. The dude shot the car and hit an 11-year-old kid on the freeway here.
Jesus.
What kind of thing is going in your head to have a road rage? An 11-year-old kid got killed and the dad rammed the car of the guy and the police got him. But these are the things we're talking about, right?
Jesus.
But I mean, if you can't forgive yourself, you need to scan that code behind Doc or come work with us to become
Yeah.
this type of person that you can be okay with yourself, to feel good about yourself, to forgive yourself, to forgive others, to become the person you potentially can become,
Yeah.
not just for yourself, but for others.
Wow. Yeah, and I'll just want to chime in real quick before we move on to the next thing, Gordon. When you said, as far as looking at yourself, and this one, I didn't even think about this part, but when it comes to holding grudges, and that might have to be a whole thing in and of itself.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember one time I tried to do that, and because my wife had done something, and I was like, it was almost like, I got her, she finally messed up. It's finally her fault. God revealed it. He was like, but what have you done?
What have you
Talk
done?
about like holding on to stuff, right? And it's like, but look at all the stuff you've done, and look at the things I've forgiven you of. And I was indefensible, right? I couldn't. How can I defend myself against that? Because it's true, right? Sometimes we hold our others to a standard that we don't even hold ourselves to.
Dig.
We make excuses for our own behaviors but then, other people, we hold their feet to the fire. It's like, no, when it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander, right? If it's bad for them and you want to hold on to the stuff for them, then you also got to look at yourself. But ultimately, that's the whole purpose of this, right? The whole purpose is that for you not to hold on to it for yourself, but also to let it go for other people as well, so you can be free. Because unforgiveness is a prison, it's a chain, it's poison, it's destructive in your own life. There's no benefit to it. It doesn't make you more manly. It doesn't make you more masculine. It doesn't do anything but keep you trapped in a prison of your own making.
Absolutely. You hit it. To me, the forgiveness topic, you know what I mean? The selfish act of forgiveness. We can start it in the both ways, but because our lives have taken different experiences, turmoil, we look at things differently where it's like none is none is wrong. It's just from the perspectives of different men. Now, I'm pretty sure some of you men out there have been going through some of these things, but how do you move forward, especially in the world right now where you have so much just crap going on, right? Especially when you hold yourself to a lower standard, say, than your boy. But he's going through the worst of crap. But he's doing better in your head. But he's
Hmm.
actually not mentally and emotionally, right?
Yeah.
Doc, let me ask you this on this next one. Clinically, therapeutically, right? How do you sever emotional ties to past pains? Give me the answer.
So the first thing is you have to go back to those things that hurt you and in a safe place and with the clinician, you got to start talking about it. You got to start talking about, you got to
Mhm.
start giving it a new meaning other than what you have right now set for it. For instance, there's work I've done with a client where they were abused as a child, sexually abused as a child. And in their story, they thought that they were the perpetrator. They was their fault. It was their fault because they didn't say no. It was their, so it almost felt like they allowed it to happen. We had to
God,
go back and
that's a big one.
change
That's
that
nasty.
story. That's not the case. You were a child, right? We can't change what happened. We can change the meaning behind what happened because the meaning behind what happened is what creates
The
our
belief.
beliefs and perspectives.
Yeah.
So when it comes to unforgiveness and things like that, you have to go back into that story. You have to change the narrative. And a lot of times when it comes to unforgiveness is you got to have compassion. Part of that is recognizing you know better than anybody else. You've hurt people just like everybody else, and just like
Yeah.
you've been hurt. That's first and foremost. But second, you have to recognize that this person has been through something. Whether maybe you know them closely, know their story, and maybe you don't. But know that they've been through something that has caused them to respond in this way.
Yes.
It's not saying you haven't been hurt. It's not saying your feelings aren't valid or anything like. It's just saying that you have to look at it differently. Instead
Yes.
of this horrible person who came for me and they were trying to attack me and they're just evil and horrible and this, it's like, no, this is a person who has had whatever horrible experience in their own life, and this is how it's showing up. It has
Correct.
nothing to
Correct.
do with me. That's another thing to separate it
But
about me. It's
that
because a lot
big.
of times we personalize it. Oh, they did it to me. They came for me. They intentionally did it to me. And it's like, they didn't. There was some default, something wrong in them. And I'm not saying the act didn't happen to you. I'm saying why the act happened was not about you, wasn't your fault. That parent who's a child molester, that's not the child's fault. It
No.
happened to
Yeah.
you, but that's not your fault, right? The way that you were talked to, that's not your fault. Even if you weren't in the best space, it's because of something that happened in that person, right? So to depersonalize it and to separate, okay, it's not about me, it's about them. Now, granted, I'm gonna throw this caveat in there. Do not use this as a excuse for bad behavior. Because some people will be like, "Well, I can talk and treat people any kind of way, and if they do something to hurt me, that's their fault." No, if you're stirring up trouble, you need to take responsibility. But we have a whole video about that.
That's
So
the
I'm
whole
not.
thing.
So we're moving right now with the framework of you didn't necessarily do something wrong. You were an innocent bystander, and you received poor treatment at the hand of your wife, at the hand of your parents, at the hand of your boss, at the hand of your friends, at the hand of your enemy, if you're in whatever the case may be. Your job is to now go back and reframe that story in a way where it's like I can have more compassion, I can depersonalize it and make it so it's not about me, and then I can start moving forward and start actually seeing, okay, well, what really is this about? Oh, shoot, they've been through this, they've been through that. I work with some people that when we start going into it, you start talking about why their parents did that certain thing to them. You start recognizing, oh, they didn't have their parents in their life. They were abused. They experienced all those things. So when you start looking at your situation like that, it makes it easier to forgive because it's like now you're not forgiving, you're not looking at this person as an enemy, as this horrible person. You're looking at them as someone who's hurt, someone who has never been loved, someone who doesn't know any better. You start looking at them almost like a child, right? You look at a child and a child makes a
Emotionally, they
mistake.
are.
Yeah,
They
right?
are.
And you look at a child and you see they made a mistake, and it's like, okay, am I going to hold this against them forever? Or it's like, it's a child. They made a mistake. They didn't know any better. Because a lot of times we think just because you're an adult, you should know better.
Not
Not
necessarily. No.
necessarily at all.
Close.
That's kind of the work you start doing to really sever that emotional tie to that event that took place. You really got to start moving with compassion. You really got to start moving in a way where you depersonalize it. You start doing these things and reframing it. And when you start doing that, you start severing that tie, and then you'll start moving in a way. And it's honestly, it's as someone who's on the other side, it's wild because when you're grown up and you're in such a way where you hold on to everything, and then you move in such a way where you hold on to nothing, like there's a weight that's a massive weight that gets lifted off and it never comes back on you ever again.
especially if you can sever that tie, like we just said on that topic,
Oh my
because
God.
it's huge. Here's my take on that, right? My
Yeah.
take, my with severing ties and stuff. The minute you stop making excuses for yourself and what can be done on the next thing, and when, like you said, when you look at people, like even like when me and Doc talk about the program we run over there, right? It's when I look at these parents that don't have a clue of anything, I
Hmm.
have so much empathy because it's not that they don't know. It's just they don't have the tools. They've been traumatized also. They've
Yeah.
been, and all they need is recycling. And they come to me, Mr. Watt, how do I do this and get it to his head so that we relate the message? But when they start making excuses and deflecting and making excuses, that's when I kind of like, I have to kind of like, this is where it's not your fault. It's what's happened to you, but you haven't dealt with it. But you've been making excuses all your life. So you think it's
Yeah.
part of the pattern.
Yeah.
Once you think it's part of the pattern, you're in trouble because I've done it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This is what makes it so special because I've done it. Like I could go hurt somebody and stuff. Then I'll make a full blown excuse and I lie to myself, and it's like then it eats up. When you get to a certain age where you think that, I'll give you a good analogy. I did a faceless post the other day, right? And the post was about when you're young, you put yourself in a box, right? You tape your box. They promise you the corner office, the dream. You're gonna pay off the you're gonna get your family. You're gonna do this. You're gonna love life. But then you see the next person, your age, you're 90 years old, you're 70 years old, you got graying hair, everything. You see, you didn't live. And here comes this fresh 25-year-old with the same thing working for corporate. And the irony of it, the comparison is like, who lived?
Yeah.
Right? And that goes, part of that is forgiving yourself, especially when, you know, you could pull that tape out of your box and step out, but you're so trained and ingrained, and that happens with not forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a deep one.
Yeah. I mean, that deep fear will keep you from living. It'll keep you
Yes,
from forming relationships. And by the time you get to that point in your life, it's like, what was it for? Did it really keep
exactly.
you safe? Did it really keep you safe? Like, Gordon, you could probably test this better than anybody else. I guess you could say prison can keep you safe. I mean, you're locked in there, no one can get in. But is that really living? Like, would you say, Gordon, your time when you were in prison was like, I was living life, man. That was it. Let me tell you, I can't wait to go back. Like, you know,
Let me answer that. You make best with what you do for the years that you're going to do because you know you're going to spend 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Your best to survive. But the part that got me was my dad took out an insurance policy on me because he didn't think I would make it out.
yeah,
But he knew I was safe, that I wasn't in the streets and I wasn't doing things to anybody. Because, I've been on the news, I've been in the front page, I've been in so many different situations where it's like, you don't know, but it actually saved me because I had to grow inside.
well, let me ask you this question, right? Because you said a key word, survive, right? I had to survive. So, with the metaphor of unforgiveness being the prison, then essentially what you're in is survival mode, right?
Survival mode,
Yeah,
all ways, not just
yeah,
physically,
yeah,
emotionally, spiritually, going back to where you could have, because you sit at your let's go be really, really honest.
yeah,
You go to prison, right? At 5 years, you still cocky, you still punchy, you still think you can run the streets, you still can do it. About the 10, 7, 8 year mark, you kind of wonder, like, man, because you got 7, 8 more years to go, right?
yeah,
And you're
yeah.
thinking, like, why am I here? What could I have done? So there's phases also in forgiving yourself in prison terms.
Hmm.
I mean, you see so much things with people doing prison videos and stuff like now because they want to keep you out. Maybe they're doing for clout. It doesn't matter because the stuff that you go through internally, until you can forgive yourself, you cannot move on in
Mm.
any situation, even in prison, even as an addict, even as a criminal, right?
Yeah,
Until you can forgive yourself, you're not going to be able to forgive others for what?
man.
For what?
So, Gordon, I mean, you know what? Unforgiveness is a prison.
It is.
And the problem that I see with unforgiveness is that when we're in physical prison, at least you know when you're going to get out. 5 years,
Oh,
10,
somebody
I mean, you
gets you,
hope,
you're done.
right? All things you're able to survive. At least you have an end point.
Yes,
But
yes.
when you're in a prison with no bars, it's in your head. You think it's keeping you safe. You can't see how it's keeping you trapped. How many life sentences are you giving yourself? You get to the point where you're
Yeah.
50, 60, 70, 80 years, your life live a life full of regret. I wish I would have forgiven. I wish I would have made things work with my wife. I wish I would have reconciled my sons. I wish I would have
Yep.
done this. I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have told my father I loved him. I wish I would have. It's I wish. And you lived in this complete and total prison, giving yourself the sentence,
You gave yourself the sentence
and yeah, you survived,
physically.
but you never lived. You never lived. And so that's why it's so important to really grasp this message and understand that forgiveness has to happen on two levels. You got to happen with yourself, and it's got to happen with others. Right?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
Because you look at any let's say I call them like people that they change their lives. You see them at the program, right?
Yeah.
You know who's changed and who hasn't changed. You can see, I can see, I can feel them, know it, how they talk, how they move, what's in their eyes, and everything else, because they forgave themselves and they want that change.
Yeah.
And there's the ones that faking it because they want a little clout, they want something else. It never does.
Yeah.
Not internalize. Because you said it last week, right? When we did our the dad episode, right?
Yeah.
You know you made it in life when your kids want you involved.
Yes.
That's the you can have any billionaire in the world, any millionaire, yeah, money can suffice. You need money, absolutely. I get it, all this stuff.
Yeah.
But take that money away. If you take that money away, what happened? Will you
Mm-hmm.
be the same person? Will you not be the same person? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not talking from experience because money used to run my life. Greed, power, validation, everything used to be the thing, right? For me, because I was traumatized because I was poor. I didn't have shit. But
Mm-hmm.
then you look at the forgiveness, right? Back to the scenario that you said, right?
Yeah.
It the child molesting, but it's not even that. What about you as a teenager with split parents in two separate households and now you gotta become the dad? That's traumatizing too,
Absolutely. The
right?
parentification. Yeah. There's a lot of guys that have to do that. They have to be the man of the house. And
Yes.
it's like, I'm a child. I should be able to be a child.
Right.
But that trauma, and it can lead to unforgiveness and resentment,
And for yep,
you
big,
know? Yeah.
big. I mean, it's in fact, I see it a lot because the parents put their kids in a situation. They didn't think nothing big of it, but they didn't realize the trauma because I've done it myself because I abandoned two of them before.
Hmm.
One I haven't met, I've seen, and one forgave me.
Yeah.
So I'm cool. But this is why I give my kids the best childhood they can have and let them do it. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but she goes, but you knew I was crazy when you met me. So I just learned how to suppress it. But on the growth, let me ask you this question, Doc. On the
Yeah.
growth level, how do you reclaim the narrative with the forgiveness or the unforgiveness, both for yourself and for others?
Well, I don't know if you reclaim a narrative as much as you create the narrative.
Mm,
You have to create the narrative.
correct.
One of the things you could do is if a person is able to do so, you can engage in a conversation with them, right? I don't know if we won't have time to get into the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation because they're not the same thing. A lot
No,
of times we think if we were forgiven, we have to reconcile. That's not the case because there are some people that, are so oblivious to the effect they had on you that they'll just stand 10 toes down like that never happened. I remember there was one client I was working with, and she was molested for like 7, 8 years or something like that. And when she approached her father about it, he was like, "Yeah, it never happened." Like, imagine the
like
level. I mean, when I say it, like it destroyed her, it really destroyed
I was like,
her
you can't
life.
even admit to it.
It destroyed her life in so many different ways, drugs,
Oh,
prostitution,
of
jail,
course.
all types of stuff, right? Struggling to get work. Like it really like destroyed her life. And even the slightest amount of just acknowledgement, like I wronged you, I'm sorry. He couldn't even do that. Couldn't even do that.
Mm.
And so,
Wow.
so with someone like that, right? With someone who's continuing the behavior, with someone who's not willing to engage in conversation, there is no reconciliation with a person like that. But you still can forgive them because, again, forgiveness isn't about them; it's about you.
If
It's
it's,
about
it's
you
about
letting go.
themselves. Yeah.
And so, but when it comes to reclaiming the narrative, you have to take the power back in your hand, put the pen in your hand, and you have to write the narrative you want. I was abused. I was the victim. I was neglected. And I'm not saying adopt the victim mentality. It's just a matter of saying this is what actually happened to me, objectively happened to me. And I'm no longer going to allow this to dictate my life. I'm going to move with compassion. I'm going to move with grace and mercy. I'm going to let the person go, right? Because holding on to it is not punishing them, right? It's punishing yourself. It's not keeping you safe. Nothing like that. So you have to write that narrative. A general template for that is this person was broken. This
Mhm.
person who did this thing to me was broken. They didn't have what they needed to really engage with me in a way that was meaningful, in a way that I needed. For example, we talk about parents, where the parents are like, I did the best I could with what I had. And that's all well and good, but it's not enough, right? If you still weren't there, if you were still neglecting it, it's not a pass. It's just simply saying they didn't do it. So, either you can hold on to it, right? And say, well, you should have, and that's my life and did it. Or you could just be like, you know what? My parents they didn't know any better, right? They
I
had
mean,
me. They were
yeah,
kids
yeah.
themselves. They didn't know any better. And I'm not going to hold this against them. So I
Right.
forgive you. And you might say, well, my parents, they act a certain way. Well, then that's when the boundaries come in. Again, reconciliation is not necessary for forgiveness, but forgiveness is necessary for reconciliation. But it's not everybody who has offended you need to actually have a relationship with. Some people you can just, hey, I forgive you, but I'm not really going to engage with you anymore. And you don't have to necessarily do it to their face either. You don't have to like, well, I got to go have a conversation with them. I got to text them. You can just let it go for yourself. I'm not holding on to that. I forgive them. I let it go. I got to move forward. I can't let this dictate my life. And you can move forward just like that. And they would never know. But you would know because essentially what you're doing is you're letting yourself out of jail. You're letting yourself out of prison. You're freeing yourself from the weight of that unforgiveness and you're moving forward. And you're going to be happier. You're going to be healthier. You're going to have a longer life. You're going to be more productive. You're going to be able to operate and truly be the 11th man when you let all of that weight go.
And that's all it is.
Yeah.
The weight that you put in yourself, the emotional prison, the psychological prison, the perspective prison that you put yourself in is all hold back, but you also hold the key. That's
Yeah.
the whole thing. Because until you realize you're the key, that you can potentially become this other person that you see that's happy go lucky. You don't know the crap I've been through that I had to come over.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
tell me, like, how come you have all the answers? I said, because I've been through more crap than you have been through probably in so many years at a younger age. I
Yeah.
paid for it. I not
Yeah.
just paid for it physically, I paid for it emotionally, psychologically, monetarily, everything you can think of, you pay for it because rent is due at the end of the day for something, right? Whether it's you paying God for the things that He had blessed you for, you're paying for. Now it's up to you whether you can forgive yourself to be unselfish with it so that the next people that comes in contact with you, you can pay for it.
Man,
Where do I come these with from, huh, Doc?
man, golly. And listen, man, and here's the crazy part too, Gordon. When you hold on to unforgiveness, all you're doing is drawing that same behavior to come back to you.
Absolutely.
Where your focus
Absolutely.
goes, your energy flows, and what ends up happening is not only do you create the prison, you also find people in situations that will recreate the same hurt that you
All
experienced in the
the time.
first place.
Mhm.
And so you think you're protecting yourself, but you're literally creating the scenarios and situations that are going to hurt you all over again. See, women can't be trusted. Well, that's because you keep getting with women you can't trust because of the hurt and pain and unforgiveness you're holding on to. It's eating you alive. Unforgiveness literally destroys ourselves. It is literally a cancer in ourselves. There is no purpose in having it. You literally will recreate the same issues, the same problems, the same hurt. You keep holding on to that unforgiveness, there's a price to pay for it. It's going to be your mental health. It's going to be your
It'll
peace.
be
It's going to be your
something.
finances. It's going to be your marriage. It's going to be your children. It's going to be your business. It's going to be your health. There's a price, a heavy, heavy price to pay. And for anyone who's a believer, the heaviest price is stand before God with all that unforgiveness and him
Ah,
being like, I forgave you of everything, and yet you held on to everything else.
for everybody
Oh
else.
yeah, nah, yeah, and yeah, you finna get this work. You ain't coming in here with me. So yeah, there is a very heavy price to pay, and so you have to ask yourself the question, gentlemen: how long do you want to keep being hurt? How long do you want to keep being feeling like you're not valuable? How long do you want to keep going on feeling dismissed or ashamed? You have to ask yourself that question because that's all you're doing is prolonging your own torture. It's your torture chamber. All you're doing is prolonging it. So ask yourself the question, how long do I want to keep doing this and living like this? When
Right.
is enough enough? When am I sick and tired of beating myself up my own head and thinking about how horrible I am because maybe I wasn't in my kid's life in the beginning, in the first part of their life? How am I going to keep beating myself up for a mistake I made? Why am I going to keep beating other people up for the mistakes they made? How long do I want to be in this prison? How long do I want to keep drinking this poison? And when is enough enough? You got to ask yourself that question.
Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, like even for the workshops that are coming up in 2026, the webinars and everything that you're going to be able to help stuff. This is what I want you to do, guys, today. If you take into account or you take write down something, right? Write it around a piece of paper, put in your mind. You don't have to journal it. What are some of the things you could have let go but still holding on to until this day,
Mm.
right? If you're holding on to one thing, that's one thing's too many to move forward, right?
Yeah.
Now you start thinking about the shit that you've been through and you still holding on to it. It takes how many steps to just break even? If you have 10 things, you got to do 10 steps, work 10 times more harder just to break even versus you cut them off and you move forward. I
Right.
always tell people this, right? The things that you hold on to takes more energy. And it's not about like say that we like me and Doc was talking about. It's not about time management. It's about now energy management.
Hmm.
Energy management, where you give your attention to, is going to be the meaningful for moving forward.
Yes.
If you're a Duracell hopper bunny, there's only so much you can go backwards and to move forward to get to the same place where you started. Versus you chop that thing off and you move forward and you just become a new person, the 2.0 version, the potential version you knew you always could become.
Yeah.
Let the shit go.
Yeah. Gordon, yeah. And I hope you guys caught that. Unforgiveness is a massive energy drain, a massive, massive energy drain, and for no reason. Unforgiveness is like trying to run a race, dragging 200 pounds behind you. Gordon, you talked about how, having those 10 things, you got to go through all those different steps and mental gymnastics just to make some type of progress. So by letting all that go, how much faster can you move? How much more successful can you be? How much better can your marriage be? How much better can your relationship with your children be? How much better can your business be? Like, how much faster could you move if you didn't have all that weight bearing down on you all the time, keeping you, making you indecisive, keeping you from making the right decisions? Like, how much faster, how much better could your life be losing all that, letting all that weight go? Part of my exercise routine is to run up and down my stairs with kettlebells, right? So right now I have, I run up with like 100 pounds or 50 in each hand. And soon I'm going to be running with like 100 in each hand, right?
Ooh,
Your unforgiveness is just like that.
same thing.
It's
Same.
just like that. With them, I'm trudging up the stairs, having a hard time, breathing all heavy. Without them, man, I'm like a daggone
Pew.
deer. Just like, you ever seen those goats in the mountain? Just jumping.
Mountain goat.
Yeah, just flying, no issue at all. That's what it's like to live without unforgiveness. I can't tell you how many days I've wasted, how much energy has been
Energy.
drained by holding on to unforgiveness. Me and my wife get into something and I'm holding on to it. It consumes my prayer
Snooze.
time.
Snooze.
It's sitting there in the in between times, between sessions. It's on my mind 24/7. You know how much of a drain that was? How hard that is to keep moving forward. I'm trying to do session, but now it's just I'm free. Well, it is what it is. It'll be all right. Move forward. I don't hold anything against her. She comes back, all happy. If she's happy, I'm happy. We're
Right.
good, right? We keep it pushing. And so, no knot to my stomach, no nothing like that. So, I say all this to say, guys, it's sweeter on this side. Holding on to unforgiveness, all it does is hurt you. All it does is tear you apart. All it does is waste your energy. All it does is hold you back. And shoot, if you keep doing it, it can send you to hell. Stop putting yourself in a prison you don't have to be in. And especially if you've suffered long enough.
Please. I mean, this is where we're gonna. Holy smokes, we just blew through. I mean, this is ridiculously touching because forgiveness can be such a big thing. But are you constantly seeking validation and you still looking for needing the feeling of approval and you want to build self-worth? You know what I mean? If you're looking for somebody like us, a team that can get you insights from my experience and things that Doc is professionally as a professional therapist, and to have a bunch of encouragement and direction, please head on to findout.boundariesandbrotherhood.com. Fill out the assessment right there at the bottom. We will get to it. We will reach right back out to you. We will put you on a wait list so that you can intensively figure these things out, not just with us. We want to give you the tools. If you're feeling that you're depleting your self-worth into something that you're not even realizing it, and if you're even outsourcing some of your value, please reach out. If you want one-on-one therapy, scan that code right behind Doc, right? We do have a school platform, a Reddit platform that I post daily stuff on it. The motivational stuff I put on YouTube is from my heart. Yes, I can teach you how to use all these tools, how to do all these stuff, but that can be for another story. We want you to be able to forgive, to move forward, to reach your full potential. And we just want to be your guide.
Yep.
That's all. End the show, please.
Guys, we haven't even scratched the surface, to be honest. We didn't talk about apologies. We didn't talk about how to reconcile. We didn't talk about a lot of things, right? This is really just bringing your attention to an issue that a lot of us as men have, because a lot of us feel like to forgive, let someone go, right? And we want to be the arbiter of justice a lot of times to protect ourselves, or sometimes we think we just got to stick it to them and things like that. You're not. You're not. All you're doing is hurting yourself. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting your relationships. And we don't want you to live a life of regret. We don't want you to just survive. Like Gordon said when he was in prison, it's like you got to survive, because some people don't make it out. And the fact of the matter is, when you have unforgiveness, there's a lot of men that don't make it out. And there's a lot of men that unfortunately take their own life because of unforgiveness. All the shame. I'm not man enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. And they hold on to it. They hold on to it. In that prison, they don't even get a chance to make it out. They die in prison. So guys, if you need help, please reach out. We're here for you. Right? We can get you the help you need. We can help you to move past the shame. We can help you to move into a place where you're secure within yourself. You know your worth. You know your value. You know how to navigate. You know how to talk about You know how to uphold your boundaries. You know how to value your relationships. We can get you on the right path, get your life on the right track, and have you successful in every domain of your life.
Guys, do us a favor. Hit that follow button here if you're on TikTok. If you're watching this on live, we're going to cross post this. I want you guys to go on to YouTube and hit the subscribe button at Boundaries and Brotherhood and hit that notification bell. Leave us a comment. Doc's book is coming out. I've written about 6 books. It's matching up with workshops. You want to learn about how to reframe your thinking. We also have sheets for you to use. You want to be able to influence yourself. It's workbooks, workshops, platforms, everything. This is Gordon Watt from Boundaries and Brotherhood. We'll see you guys next week.
Have a great, awesome, and blessed day.
Next
week's Thanksgiving. We'll keep you guys posted. If not, though, you guys have a great and blessed Thanksgiving, and we'll see you all soon.
All right, guys. We'll see you there.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. As always, hoped you enjoyed this episode, and it surely was a deep one. Want more on topics similar to this? Head on over to all platforms, but be sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel and leave us a comment.